Andreas Wasmuht, you're the Business and Economics Convenor for the Bath Royal, and on this coming Tuesday, 14th of September at 7:30 p.m, you're going to be talking about the key business lessons from the pandemic. Is this the biggest global business impactful event? And if so, what's happening? What lessons are we learning from it?
Well, I think the short answer to your question, Joe, is probably yes. The one thing I would say though is I don't think we've actually felt the full impact of the global pandemic. We certainly felt it in terms of the health issues, the hospitalizations, the global deaths, which have run into the millions. But we really haven't necessarily felt the full economic impact because countries have taken steps to protect their industries and their businesses by supporting them through schemes, grant schemes, loan schemes, furloughing staff, for example, in the UK, which is coming to an end at the end of September. So the honest answer is the biggest impact is yet to come. And that's why it's important that businesses around the world, but my talk specifically will focus on the UK, make sure they're prepared for what is to come, but also take the lessons from operating in unprecedented circumstances over the last 18 months.
So what are the key lessons that can be drawn for businesses and that will help them get back on their feet?
Well, I think one of the first lessons is that businesses need to be better prepared for eventualities, and the talk will really start with things like contingency planning, crisis management, business continuity, and scenario planning. So that people in businesses, the management teams, but also the people working there, are very clear in terms of how they may react if the unexpected happened. I think that's the lesson number one, is rather than assuming that business will continue as usual without any disruptions in the future, having some planning in place is crucial. I mean, the old cliche is, failing to plan is planning to fail. I think it's pretty apt here.
And do you think that could lead to, obviously the largest corporations presumably do some element of planning for unforeseen events, but do you think that could now sort of seep down the food chain to small and medium-sized enterprises?
I do, because I think the small businesses are the ones that actually feel this most acutely. Because they're further down the food chain in terms of the supply chain generally. They have much more organic relationships with their own suppliers and feel it much more immediately, and don't have the same cash reserves as big organizations. So I think the SME market can teach the overall market a lot in terms of how to react to this. And it's really about actually realizing the situation you're in the first place. Rather than being paralyzed and panicked by something like the pandemic, there is different ways of how you deal with actually taking action. And I think most people only believe that if it's business as usual, this is the way we manage a business. But clearly in crisis management, you need to deal with things very differently. You need to act first and then cogitate and retrospectively analyze it subsequently. Again, if you're threatened by something with immediate danger, you need to act there and then. And I think some companies have done that. They have seemed to have been able to adjust and innovate accordingly, whereas others were just flailing and not knowing what to do. And I think that's the issue. One of the other big lessons is innovation, adaptation, and flexibility in your operating model is going to be key going forward. And I think one lesson that I think everybody has learned is that unless you have a truly multi-channel or omni-channel offer as far as your business is concerned, you will struggle in the future. And the pandemic has brought this into stark relief.
Do you think it's possible that some businesses will emerge from this pandemic leaner, better equipped to face the future and progress in the future. In other words, they've been forced into taking actions they may not otherwise have done.
Well, invariably, I think it's all about learning from the events that have unfolded over the last 18 months. If you can take some learning out of that and you've adapted and you innovated and you've changed your business model, how you do business in a positive way, yes, of course you will benefit. I mean, for example, the way we work in the future will be fundamentally different. I mean, people home working, for example, the excessive overheads of having premises all over the country, paying high rents, head offices as well as distribution facilities. Some of these are no longer going to be required. And people will have a much leaner outfit, will be able to deal with things on a multi-channel basis. And if the research from the National Office of Statistics is anything to go by, employers feel that actually their colleagues are much more productive working from home than they were potentially in the office. So I think this could be a permanent shift for some organizations where rather than having work from home Friday, maybe it's going to work Friday is going to be the new mantra going forward. And clearly, some people will default back to how they've operated in the past. And unless they learn from the pandemic, will encounter similar problems in the future.
Why should people come? What are they going to learn from coming to your talk?
What I'm trying to summarize is the 10 key lessons from the pandemic. 10 things of doing things differently in the future by actually driving a different result, I suppose is the big thing. There are 10 things, 10 crucial things that can be done by businesses reinventing themselves and seeing the responsibility of their business broader than actually just their own organization. And for me, the message is, as long as businesses realize that they're part of overall networks, overall interconnections, both locally and globally, and preparing themselves for that on a multi-channel, omni-channel basis with an openness to change, I think that's the critical aspect, an openness to change and an ability to react to change, that will make the biggest difference going forward. Yeah, my talk is really going to highlight the evolution that is already happening, as well as the revolution that is about to hit us as far as the business world is concerned. I want to equip businesses, large and small, across the country, local and globally, with 10 key things that they can do differently to be successful in the future, to prosper and to grow, and to be able to change and adapt to future situations like the pandemic, like the financial crash, and future issues that they will face in their business models. I mean, one of the key aspects of my talk really focuses on an adage, which goes a bit like this. If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always got. And therefore, change, innovation, and adaptation has been proven to be the most essential parts of actually dealing with this pandemic. And unless companies really take on board the 10 key lessons that I'm highlighting in the talk in terms of innovation, adaptation, flexibility, change management, etc., then they will be struggling in the new world that will be manifesting itself post this pandemic. Because the pandemic at this stage is a health crisis, and it will turn into an economic and business crisis, which people and businesses need to be ready for.